Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And a very warm welcome to today's video. And the question we're asking today, what next for Mario? What next for Nintendo after huge blockbusting box office? Yes, the movie analysts and the box office analysts and the pundits and the critics have been floored to see that they have absolutely no power. It's a great time to be a Nintendo fan. It's an even better time to be a Mario fan. And the question is, what next? But it's an even better time to be a brand new Nintendo fan, to be a brand new Mario fan, because the world is this company's and these Nintendo characters, oyster. It's amazing box office. We really haven't seen numbers like this come in so quick, so fast and so huge since pre-pandemic. So it's great for movie theatres, it's great for Universal and Nintendo, but it's great for you and it's great for me because Access Media has been finally defrocked in their fake, probably paid for reviews by Disney and WB. We'll get into those studios because what a mess they're in right now. They wake up today seeing that Universal did a great deal, and this is for the second year in a row that Universal are dominating through Illuminations the animated movie market. Last year, the fantastic Minions: The Rise of Gru dominated and destroyed Disney's attempts at creating a Toy Story universe with Lightyear, a terrible, awful, movie full of propaganda and the usual extremism from that extremist now studio. But, was what happened when surely there was bids, surely Nintendo were taking offers from lots of different studios. Why did they decide to go with Illuminations? Well, I'll tell you why, because Illuminations have the best story group and the best animators. They're like big kids. They like this shit and they want to entertain you. And the extremism and the propaganda is at the door. Why do you think you suddenly got all these negative reviews? It was done on purpose. They wanted to stop Nintendo from dominating cinema. They're already dominating the gaming market. They have the best console on the market right now too. And they have failed. But no one could have imagined that Super Mario Brothers, this movie, was going to be as huge a success as it's been. Now, some people are predicting $1 billion. It's very rare for an animated movie to make $1 billion. I don't know how many have done it, but it's been very, very few. It's already smashed the Frozen box office records as well. So what next for Mario and what next for Nintendo? I think Nintendo have got to look at creating their own cinematic studio. Nintendo Studios has to come next. And, one of these box office analysts was talking about this is great for Nintendo because they can do different deals with different studios. No. They have got a great relationship with Illuminations and Universal. Why would they want to move away from that? Now, I know why this Disney box office analyst shill was saying that. He's hoping a deal can be done with Disney. If they wanted to deal with Disney, they would have dealt with Disney. It ain't happening, everyone. It ain't happening, Disney shills. Mario and Nintendo are dominating the market. Superheroes are dead. Gaming is the new thing. Get excited. I mean, sitting there watching this film, and I've watched this film quite a few times. Yes, it's short, sweet, to the point, and it's just over 90 minutes long. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, critics decided to mark it down because of this. I think this film, because of its length, is perfect. It's to the point. It doesn't mess about. After all, it's an animated movie. It ain't fucking War and Peace. It ain't Gone with the Wind. What did you expect? It's clear to me that Universal, Illuminations and Nintendo decided to kind of, not be not take too many gambles with this film. It's a film, I believe. Now, critics have said if you're not a Nintendo fan, you can't really enjoy this film. But I've gone to see this film with non-Nintendo fans as a treat. And what I've seen is that they totally get what's going on. They've never played Mario. They've never played a game in their fucking life. And they loved it. But if you are a Nintendo fan, if you are a Super Mario Brothers fan, wow. You know, the Easter eggs, which is a big thing today. It's a big trend today. People like to see them. And there are loads. But it isn't just about Easter eggs. Ultimately, there is a good story. It's about two working class brothers. It's about Mario never being respected by his father. I can understand that myself. You know, I was always the bad egg of the family. And, you know, and everyone's mocking these brothers for going out on their own. You know, you should have stayed and done a proper job. I got that as a kid, as a young guy, as a young, you know, ambitious guy myself. So it's a very resonant story as well. But we shouldn't really look at this movie too deeply. It works. You can tell that these two brothers love each other deeply. And Mario will do anything to save his brother. And, you know, in terms of Princess Peaches, now we heard a lot of stuff about Princess Peaches. And, you know, for me, she's not really, I mean, I think, actually, if I can be critical, she wasn't used as much as she should have been, but she's there, and clearly she has a big future, you know, within the franchise because, you know, they mention in the film how she doesn't know where she's from. Mario says, maybe you come from my world. And she talks about the galaxy being, you know, infinite. There's so many worlds. She could come from anywhere. So she could definitely get her own movie. She could definitely get her own spin-off, or they may just want to continue her in the Super Mario Brothers sequel. It will be interesting what they do. There's so many things they could do. I've spoken about a Mario Kart movie. I mean, you know, a Mario Kart Days of Thunder type of movie. Imagine that shit. Or even if you look at the Cars movies from Disney Pixar, there's something you can do there. I tell you what, I still own the original Super NES. I play Mario Kart all the fucking time, and it's the original Super NES I used to have years ago. Mario Kart is my favourite Nintendo game. It's my favourite Mario game, and it has remained to be to this day. But the potential, because this is a question facing Nintendo Universal and Illumination, because I suppose, you know, Illumination's off the table if you decide to go live action, because this is the quandary that Nintendo are now in. You can keep on just doing animation, it's worked for them, and the kind of money that's coming in, this is live action box office money, so it's really exciting for them. But they can keep on working with Universal, they can keep on working with Illuminations on animation, but they can also make live action. And there's another situation. You could also do a live action mixed with animation movie as well. So there's so many things they can do. The world is their oyster. If they want to dominate the market like Marvel and Disney have done since Iron Man, they're really going to have to get into live action as well. And when I talk about live action, I'm not talking about the Bob Hoskins Super Mario Brothers movie. Of course not. People shit on that movie. Seth Rogen has shut on that movie. Look, that movie was made a very long time ago. They tried their best. They didn't work with Nintendo. It was difficult for them. They did their best. It's an okay movie for what it is. Stop shitting at older stuff that didn't even have the technology to do what they can do today. And it had fucking Bob Hoskins in it. Anyway, away from that, there is so much potential from this universe. As I say, Warner Brothers and Disney can forget with competing with Nintendo as well. I think if they do, like I'm suggesting, form their own studio, I think that's the best way to go here. So as I say, you know, gaming in TV and films is a big thing. I mean, The Last of Us, I wasn't over impressed with The Last of Us, and we know the messaging within that show and the person who, you know, who owns The Last of Us. But it did do well. It has done well for HBO. They're coming in with a second season in a couple of years' time. So gaming is dominating the market. Do you remember the bad old days when gaming couldn't get any success in movies and people were asking, will gaming movies ever be successful? Well, they have broke the fourth wall now. It really has helped coming after COVID, and because COVID really hurt movies, theatres, but especially the superhero trend, which is absolutely over now. Your most important audience always is families and children. It doesn't matter what demographic those families are in. It doesn't matter if they're same-gendered parents, parents of the opposite gender. None of that shit matters. Great entertainment is great entertainment. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, pink, whatever. All you have to do, like this they've done with this Super Mario Brothers movie, is just strip it down to its bare essence and make it fun and entertaining and a little bit tear-jerking in places. It works for what it is. And the money they're bringing in, look, part of me thought this could make $1 billion, right? And they're still on for that. But of course, with big openings come big drop-offs. So I have to wait and see what happens. You know, how the drop-off, because there will be a drop-off. But ultimately, let's just stick with the positivity. As I say, it's a great time to be a fan of these characters, of Nintendo as a whole. Nintendo got it right. But they have to stick the landing, because success can change our thinking. Success can make us do stupid things. So Nintendo really have to sit down with each other and have long, drawn-out conversations. Listen, I don't have to tell Nintendo what to do. You know, this company came from fucking nowhere and came up with an original, brilliant, you know, gaming system. And, you know, some of the versions of these Nintendo gaming machines they've come out with, sensational. These people are pioneers, and they will pioneer gaming in, you know, as an intellectual property in terms of movies and even probably TV as well. So Nintendo, you know, it's Nintendo's world, and they're just allowing us to live in it. It's crazy. So, and there's so many things, as I say, they can do, but I find this so exciting as a Nintendo fan. I've been a Nintendo fan all my life. That doesn't mean I know everything about Nintendo, that I played every single Nintendo game. I'm not a gamer. What I'm saying is I've owned a lot of different Nintendo gaming systems. I've always loved the Mario games. And yeah, I'm happy. I enjoyed this movie. And for it to be successful, for me, there's lots of different things that make me happy that it's successful. First of all, it takes the power away, a power they never had. It's a deluded power that Access Media and critics, you know, and journalists thought they had. But what this means is that journalists and critics and Access Media have no power over Nintendo and over this Super Mario Brothers universe. It means they can do whatever the fuck they want. You know, we saw Grace Randolph accusing this film, a little animated movie for kids. You know, the Me Too era won't like this. This is disrespectful what they're doing with Princess Peaches. Bullshit from a lunatic, of course, but it proves that none of this extremist like chat and criticism towards Mario or Nintendo is going to work. These people will deliver great entertainment because people have had enough. They've had enough of Disney, they've had enough of Lucasfilm, they've had enough of Warner Brothers Discovery, they've had enough of DC, they've had enough of DC Studios. The firing of Henry Cavill was the last fucking straw. For me, as well, as you can see, I'm very cynical about superheroes now. Still a fan, still a big DC fan. We'll see what happens. And we're going to chat. Please stay here. We're still chatting DC on this channel. But I can't call myself, you know, an entertainment YouTuber and a fan of films and television if I'm not going to talk about this. Being a big Nintendo and Mario fan, I was never not going to talk about this. So important to me. So it's huge. There's so much potential, but Nintendo were never ever going to go near Disney Animation or the Disney Story Group because they know Illuminations are the best in the business right now. And I've got so much respect for them for choosing this. I hope I'm right and they don't go anywhere near Disney or WB because everyone can see what the problem is there. I just want to go back to the Star Wars announcements, right, of this week. So they announced 3 movies. A Rey Skywalker movie, obviously a Dave Filoni movie, which is supposed to wrap up the Mandoverse. Oh my God, I tried watching. No, I did watch this week's Mandalorian. I've never been so fucking bored in all my life. How do you have Christopher Lloyd, right, and Jack Black in an episode of a Star Wars series, and it's boring? Oh my God, I was laying on my bed after a long day and I couldn't keep my eyes open. I can't even remember what happened at the end. There's certain good things in it, right? But the pacing of this series has been really, really bad. Why have they given Filoni a movie? I mean, I hope he understands that his pacing issues have to be sorted out. Personally, I think Filoni's strengths are in animation. He should have stuck to animation. And also, we didn't hear very much from Jon Favreau at Star Wars Celebration. So has he been pushed to one side? Will he not be involved? Personally, I think Favreau should be directing the Filoni movie. Because clearly Filoni's going to write it, or one of the people writing it. Filoni should stick to writing and allow Favreau to direct. Maybe Favreau is being pushed to one side. Now, we're also getting like this kind, this other movie, which is about the Old Republic, which to me is about rewriting Star Wars history, because New Hollywood like rewriting Hollywood and entertainment history so they can put their extremist views and worldviews into it. So I think what they're doing, what Kennedy's doing with these 3 movies, she's chucking them at the wall and hoping one of them sticks. And I mean, she'll be a very lucky and happy camper if they all stick. But I can't see them all sticking. They'll be lucky if one of these movies is successful. I think they want to try all 3 and see which one works. Now, basically, this is Disney's, Iger's and Kennedy's last gamble. If this doesn't work, it's over for them. They would have to sell Lucasfilm. Now, again, I don't know who would pick that up because Star Wars is a dead property right now, just like DC is and Marvel. All these 3 properties that have kind of dominated in the past. Well, not DC, but Star Wars with The Force Awakens and Rogue One started off really, really well. And so if none of these movies are successful, I mean, forget the streaming shows, they really don't matter at this point. And we all saw the Ahsoka trailer. It's basically gal wars, right? Women wars. So, yeah, forget it, right? And white men are the villains, blah, blah, blah. Been there, done that. You see, translating animation into live action is a very difficult thing to do. And it's very, very rarely successful. Now, yes, we've seen some of the animated characters come in so far in the Mandoverse. I mean, it's a debate we can have whether that's been successful or not, but it's very difficult. I think what Filoni should have done is done animated Star Wars movies for the big screen. Do an animated, Ahsoka movie for the big screen. Carry on with, maybe do a Clone Wars story, an Ezra Bridger animated movie. I think that's what Star Wars should have attempted to do with Dave Filoni, and then allow other people to do their own things. Now, good news, everyone. The director of the Rey Skywalker movie is an activist, aren't they all? Now, activism when I was growing up, let me tell you who was an activist when I was growing up. Sir Bob Geldof, who fed the third world. Now, activists today do all of this and a bit of toxic commentary in their movies, and they call themselves activists. But this is not what an activist is. So I think we know that the Rey Skywalker movie is going to be an extremist propaganda movie. Whether it's successful or not, I don't know, because, the sequel trilogy movies at least made $1 billion each. The first movie made over $2 billion. So they're going to give it a try. Now, Kathleen Kennedy has also said that there's no promise of more sequels. They're going to see what happens. There's no guarantee, she said. So she knows that none of these movies may work. It's going to be very interesting, especially the Old Republic one. I can see all these movies failing, but then you could see maybe the Old Republic one maybe succeeding if he doesn't rewrite Star Wars history too much and he isn't toxic. Although I respect him as a director, I'm not sure, if Mangold is one of my favourite people. I mean, he has got me blocked on Twitter after all. I mean, look, I upset a lot of people on Twitter. I'm not going to mention the name Rachel Zegler. If you say the name Rachel Zegler 3 times, apparently she pops out of a bottle and sets her fans onto you. She's now done it to me twice, but I won't be intimidated by elite people. I will say whatever I want to fucking say whenever I want to say. She's a young girl. How can you disagree with her? How can you say that about me? She called me weird. I am fucking weird. I'm proud of being weird, girl. At the end of the day, to me, Rachel, it's 2-0 to me. Now, finally, let's jump on the DC subject. But yeah, I mean, just going back to Star Wars quickly before we get into DC. Yeah, 3 movies. It's an interesting situation. At the very least, what you're seeing here, they're trying to cater to different Star Wars fans. So you've got the Rey Skywalker fans. There are Rey Skywalker fans. Yes, there are. And then you've got the Mandoverse stands. There are stands of that show. And then you've got lots of fans of the Old Republic. Now, whether he makes a good movie or not, we're going to have to wait and see. So, right, let's talk about DC. So, there's interesting things with DC. Yesterday we discussed Warner Brothers Discovery being, investigated by the Justice Department, or lawmakers telling the Justice Department to investigate them about the Batgirl shelving and the merger, which they call very problematic. So watch this space to find out any developments about that. But DC Twitter is talking about Asher Angel for some reason as Clark Kent and Superman. Now, this wouldn't surprise me considering Peter Safran produced both Shazam movies. Asher Angel plays Billy Batson in both Shazam movies, in case you've never seen those films before, and I don't blame you if you haven't seen those films before. So lots of fans, including Chris Wong-Svensson from Ping Pong Flicks, talking about Asher Angel playing Clark Kent and Superman. And some people, the Twitter DC shills, kind of saying that they can see it. I mean, maybe they're blind or something, but they say they would like it. As I say, Peter Safran, the co-CEO of DC Studios, the studio that doesn't seem to have any other employees apart from him, and his co-CEO, James Gunn. So he's involved. So it wouldn't surprise me if Asher Angel ends up being cast as Superman and Clark Kent. It's better than some of the things I'm thinking he's going to try here, James Gunn, with casting. I mean, Asher Angel would not be my pick. Not in a million fucking years. I like Asher. He's a great kid. He's a solid pro. But yeah, he's no Superman and he's no Clark Kent. And this would be a fucking disaster. But disaster is probably what we're going to get anyway. So all that jazz wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the direction we're going to go in. It's just more of the same, everyone. I started this video celebrating about something else that I love, Nintendo and Mario, and how well it's doing. But look, it's all about a good start. So the MCU had a good start and dominated for many, many years. It had to end sometime, right? And that's okay. They were still successful. But the DCEU never had a good start. They never knew if they really wanted to start a new franchise or if they were just making a Superman movie with some Easter eggs in it, a very good Superman movie, but at the same time, a divisive Superman movie. Let's not forget about that. So the DCEU never had a good start like the good start that Mario's having. the DCEU started off being controversial and got more and more controversial, then people started just getting bored of it and stopped talking about it. It's been like the MCU. Who would have thought we would have been at a time when the MCU doesn't even come up in the top 10 trends anymore? Wow, it's all about Mario, it's all about gaming, it's all about gaming movies. It's a very exciting time to be a gamer. As I say, I'm not really a pro gamer, but I'm happy for people who are gamers that they're going to get all this exciting shit. And hopefully it is good shit, because, you know, we've had 2 Sonic movies do really well in the box office. Now Super Mario Brothers is just exceeding all expectations. No one could have predicted this. But with gaming being the trend now, you know, is it really even worth doing an interconnected DC universe? Can it work? Well, as I just said, your first movie in the franchise, your first step has to be a win. And if it's not a win, you're chasing your tail. This is what happened to the DCEU. From Man of Steel, they were chasing their tail. Then BVS was even more controversial and divisive. They were chasing their tail. The first Suicide Squad movie, they were chasing their tail. Then Wonder Woman was respite. Justice League was a disaster. Aquaman was respite. And, you know, Shazam did okay. And then after that, it's been a disaster. 5 flops in a row. And, you know, where do they go from here? The whole thing is a nightmare. And I'm hearing rumors that they're thinking of shelving Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, not releasing it at all. Now, with all these discussions about the Justice Department and lawmakers being on WB, Discovery's back over this merger, it probably wouldn't be the best of timing, but I wouldn't put it past them because they're so stupid. There's not a brain cell between these people in any studio in any part of this industry. Well, Universal and Paramount are obviously very clever. They're the best and the biggest studios in the world right now. But yeah, if they were to shelve another movie, of course it would be a tax dodge. Of course it would be for the financial reasons because they think it's not going to make any money. But they could have avoided this. They could have outmaneuvered, other people within that production, and they could have taken out, a certain actress who outmaneuvered them. That's why she's still in that movie, because she outmaneuvered them. And, she's in the movie. The movie's going to be boycotted by many, many people. And just like the Flash movie, make no mistake, that movie's going to be boycotted. Now, whether they can cope with those boycotts, let me ask you a question. Can the Flash movie compete with the Super Mario Brothers movie and that box office? Because that box office is huge. Make no mistake. Because at this point, DC or the DCEU have not been able to compete at this point. But in terms of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Amber Heard was absolutely damaging to them. But look, it's a mess. It's a mess. And when James Gunn and Safran came in, well, Safran was always there. Well, you could argue Gunn's been there for a few years anyway, so it's all completely dodgy. But if they just rebooted properly and dumped everything, like I said they should have done from the very beginning, they wouldn't be here now. Because the Flash movie is the next DCEU movie releasing. And some people think it's been a good week for DC with the Blue Beetle trailer and My Adventures with Superman trailer as well. I'd say it's been a bad, underwhelming week for DC, because My Adventures with Superman, the animated series, is woke. It's obviously woke. And yeah, you wait and see. You wait and see that. We'll see how good that show is. Not very good. We know the controversy about Batman being a fascist with the Blue Beetle trailer. It wasn't a great trailer either. The biggest disaster for WB was the Barbie trailer, because I don't think even the Barbie stans were happy with that trailer. So these studios, apart from Universal and Paramount, who are actually on top of the tree right now, they're just carrying on with their extremism and their creative bankruptcy. So I am fascinated to see if the Flash movie can bring home the bacon. You know, Warner Brothers are boasting about this movie. They've showed it to Tom Cruise. We've been over that on so many occasions. Yes, that still tickles me. So let's see how good this movie is. Can it compete with the Super Mario Brothers movie's box office? I'll be very surprised if it does, but we'll be here, as always, to unravel all the entertainment news. This has been Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.